Bontrager Sports, and once again, we're on the road today in Rochester, Minnesota, the home of the Northwoods League, and it's a summer collegiate league celebrating its 23rd year. And summer baseball, Dick Radatz Jr. is the former owner of a team, the Rochester Honkers. He's the chairman, the president, and the visionary dreamer. Dick, great to see you again after all these years.
Rich. Yeah, it's been a while.
Let's go back to the inception of the league. In 1994, the league comes into place. There's 6 teams. You go with the wood bat versus the aluminum bat, which is one of the things that set that league apart. Why do that, and why do in the upper Midwest when baseball was really not a popular thing back in 1994? It kind of dipped.
Yeah, well, the strike was on, in Major League Baseball in '94, and actually we thought it was going to be a fortuitous thing, that our inception in Major League Baseball going under for a period of time, but we found that to be directly the opposite. That people were generally, for lack of a better term, pissed off at baseball.
Yeah.
And we were baseball, so we didn't think, in hindsight, it helped us at all. But anyway, we started in '94, and limited schedule. We played 54 games back in those days. We play 72 today, so we've grown from that respect as well. We had 22-man rosters back then. We now have 30-man rosters. There's a lot that's changed. We drew 69,000 people our first year in '94. Now we draw 1.1 million on an annual basis.
And in fact, we have a team now drawing 6,000 average attendance in Madison. Back in the day, it was 500 on a good night sometimes.
Oh yeah, our first year here in Rochester, we drew 551 fans a night, and it was some lean times, as you allude to. So we've come a long way.
What made you go with the Upper Midwest? You had all the other leagues around the nation. They were all on the northeast, west side, southern belt. Upper Midwest is not the hotbed of baseball.
Yeah, it hadn't been. The thing about the Upper Midwest was that, we looked at the Midwest League's performance. And in April and May, they struggled a bit due to the weather, school not being out, that type of thing. But when you got into June, July, August, they did pretty well. But consequently, due to the April and May scenario, Kenosha, Wisconsin had lost their team, Wisconsin Rapids, Wausau, Wisconsin had now lost their team. So you have these beautiful old venues out there with nobody playing in them. And our wheels started spinning, and we thought, well, let's put some baseball in these beautiful venues. And you have beautiful weather. The kids get out of school, the kids being our college players. Yeah. And it's June, July, August. And instead of promoting a 140-game schedule up here like the Midwest League does, we'd promote a season that was much shorter than that during the ideal time of summer, and it worked out.
And you talk about the classic ball fields. I remember walking through Wausau with you. It's a mini Wrigley Field up in the upper Midwest. It's a beautiful facility.
It really is. There's a 12-foot high granite wall, red granite wall. Wisconsin, now that I've come to find out, is the red granite state. And there's a 12-foot high red granite wall all around it that's just spectacularly beautiful. Our current owner up there has just completed a second phase of a renovation, a $5.7 million renovation, which has made this place into just a spectacular venue compared to what it was when we first got here.
Now, you picked such wonderful major metropolitan cities as Wausau, Wisconsin, Manitowoc, Dubuque, where you had the Mud Puppies, what a great name. And the Rochester area was the largest metropolitan area at that time for the initial 6. Why do you pick these small, these are small market spots?
It was mainly because they had venues that were open at that time. The two components to put one of these things together, a team, is you must have a market size and you must have a venue. And there were very few opportunities available. We had Wausau, we had Kenosha, that had old Midwest League stadiums. But, Rochester had just had a current incarnation of the Northern League. It played one year in '93. Right. And that team moved up to Winnipeg, and that's another success story for the Northern League, now American Association up there. But we moved right in behind them, and then basically in Dubuque and Manitowoc, we were playing on municipal type ballparks that were basically just places to play to put another team, where we could have some competition.
let's talk about the wood bat versus the aluminum bat, because back in the day, the conversation was they can't handle that bat at that level. They weren't ready for it. No other collegiate league was doing it. Plus, we were non-sanctioned back in those days. We were not NCAA seal approved. Those are two big steps that you went outside of the box. Why'd you go those directions?
Well, we were the first for-profit summer collegiate baseball league, so that was really where we went out of the box. Nobody had ever done that before. The wood bat scenario, the aluminum bat at that time was much different than the aluminum bat they now use 23 years later. And in fact, they tried to make the aluminum bat more like the wooden bat. At this point, my opinion is they should just go to wood, which they could afford to do. But the truth of the matter is the bat companies are in the coaches' pockets, the college coaches.
Yes,
And so it's political instead of commonsensical. But going to the wood bat, now we gave the scouts an opportunity to see kids with wood bats in their hands and give them a preview of what they were going to do in the low levels of the minor leagues.
And it was an adjustment for the pitchers, for the batters. The advantage went to the pitchers. Like thinking back to Nick Ungs, for example, we saw a great arm, but he probably also had a little bit of an advantage because it wasn't the aluminum bat anymore.
Oh, no question. I mean, pitchers coming from college baseball, pitching and getting to pitch against wood bats at that time was a distinct advantage because those bats, so to speak, were weapons at that
Yes.
time. Now the advantage is not as great because they've deadened the bat and the coefficient of restitution and the trampoline effect and all the things that made those bats weapons. They're not as significant anymore. It's still not wood, but the difference is not as significant.
One of the other unique things about this league was we saw it go from card tables for food venue to the sports deck, which was the greatest happy hour here in Rochester. We were voted the best happy hour in town.
Right?
And we weren't doing hot dogs and hamburgers. We went with a menu that blew people away. Again, why that type of a style venue of food versus just a hot dog, hamburger, cotton candy?
Yeah, I think, and that's just progressed over these 23 years. I mean, it's gone to levels. I went to 2 games earlier this week. I had barbecued meatballs wrapped in jalapeno bacon. I had grilled shrimp on a sugarcane skewer.
Okay, where was that at?
These are at Kalamazoo and Battle Creek, Michigan. I had steak at my table. I had rosemary roasted, red potatoes. I mean, the food and beverage has just gone to another level. The craft beer craze has come to our ballparks, and that's come across America. And the food that goes with it has gone hand in hand. In some of the zany foods, the Twinkie dog, the Pop-Tart, with there's just all kinds of crazy things going on.
Put it on a stick, though, eat it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the other unique thing was you wanted to make this minor league baseball for collegiate level. You brought entertainment to the ballpark, everything from bobbleheads to spin the bat contests to slingshots, giveaway cards. We've seen it all over the years, but where's that fine line for Dick Radatz, president, chairman of entertainment versus baseball, because you have a history of baseball running through your blood. How do you balance that line?
Yeah, I'm kind of a purist, so I understand exactly what you're saying, but the reality of it is that the majority of the people that come to our ballparks are not coming for the game.
Yeah.
They're coming for the fireworks, the bobbleheads, the mascots, the kids to have a good time in the sandboxes we have across these venues. That's why they're coming. If we had to rely just on pure baseball, we wouldn't survive. So it's the baseball has become the excuse for the entertainment. So while I don't like it to affect the integrity of the game,
Yeah.
I don't like it to delay innings and that sort of thing. It's still a component of what we do.
Speaking about your family history, some people may recognize Dick Radatz Jr. Dick Radatz is their connection. Your father played the Monster.
Yeah.
And very well known. What was it like being a part of that family? Because you went into minor league baseball yourself. Then you got a degree in sports management, correct?
Right.
Which one helped you more, the schooling or the schooling of Dad and seeing baseball in action?
That's a great question. I think they both played a hand in it, no question. But growing up you know, in different major league venues. And back in the 60s, you know, I could sit anywhere I wanted in Fenway Park, Wrigley Field. You know, my dad played in Cleveland, Montreal, Detroit. And these were back in the days when these teams were not drawing 1 million fans.
No.
I mean, they're drawing 800,000. So, like I said, I'd sit behind home plate in Wrigley Field or anywhere I wanted in Fenway. I'd go to batting practice with them and get all the balls that got hit into the stands, you know, because nobody else was there. So it was a great childhood, you know, growing up in that environment. And that obviously fostered an interest in baseball to be in. I played in college and got hurt and got a degree in sports administration and did an internship with the LA Dodgers and 7 years in the Florida State League, and then we started this league.
In the first decade, because we'll talk about the decade team in part 2 of this, and we'll go forward because we sat around a lot of conversations dreaming about the dreams that are being lived out now. But during those first 10 years, what was the biggest milestone that you kind of take away and look back and go, how did we get there?
Yeah, I think that, you know, people ask me that. I think the biggest milestone for me, one of the biggest milestones in the Northwoods League for me was throwing our first pitch, because it took so much just to get to that point, you know, that people don't, you know, it took 2 years of my life just to get to throwing the first pitch.
It's like having a baby.
Oh, yeah, and then some, you know, because it takes more than 9 months. It took more than 9 months. So that was definitely a milestone. And then, very truthfully, the other milestone is we lost money our first handful of years. We borrowed some from Bill McKee, one of the co-founders. And once we paid him back, you know, plus the interest that was on this money, I knew he had made it financially. And that took away the sleepless nights and that kind of thing. And, you know, then it was, you know, how far can we go from here?
This is Dick Radatz Jr. Stick around. We're going to have part 2 of our series on the Northwoods League Summer Collegiate Baseball. You're listening to Trigger Sports on TriggerSports.com.